Oh, welcome to our January committee meeting, transportation. Thank everyone for making it in. We didn't have our December meeting, and this is going to be our first one for the year. So everyone, welcome. Thanks for coming. And we're going to be, we have the Commissioner Bray here from Brooklyn as well, and it's going to be a pretty big part of the meeting today. But as we're filling in, I'm just going to do a quick review of the last things we've done in the committee. We recently made a bike lane plan and made that a resolution, put that out. Hasn't been in the full board yet, but apart from that, we've also finished up with some DOT car share guidelines, a B49 bus route adjustment, as well as some traffic calming moves for Washington Avenue in CB9. So a lot of what we're doing has been pretty tightly DOT related. So we're pretty glad we can now have Commissioner Brady with us today. And I want to check if he is here and,
I'm here. Good evening.
All right, welcome.
Thanks. Glad to be here.
I'm glad he could make it. All right, so a big focus of what we've been trying to do over the past few months is kind of like reset how we work with DOT and just make sure that we're, as intuitive as possible in regards to how we work with DOT and how DOT works with us. And I'm sure you're already familiar with that. So having you in, we wanted to have like a little Q&A and have a few, examples of how we can work together regarding, DOT and CB9. So we can take this a few ways. We can start off with a Q&A, just so we have an idea of what folks want to know here. And we can keep it to one question per person, so things move pretty smoothly. Before I do that, let's ask Fred, do you have any thoughts or concerns you want to address pretty quickly, Fred? Want to introduce Bray or anything like that? Feel free.
Sure. Thank you very much for that, Mr. Chair. So first of all, again, I want to welcome back, because this is not the first time here. He's been around before. He's very familiar with CB9. Borough Commissioner Keith Bray. I also want to make sure I also recognize Deputy Commissioner Claudette Workman, who's also very familiar with the district as well. And to the points that the chair raised, this has been a very active committee for a very long time. And, so there's definitely some issues that have been going for a while that we would definitely like to initiate the conversation in terms of, to the point the chair made, in terms of understanding how we can move things along a little bit better. I think that, last year I chaired the Transportation Committee for a little bit, and Commissioner Bray, we had some conversations along with the district manager as well, in terms of one of the things that we're looking at is thinking holistically. Because, I think it maybe make more sense for the district over the long run, where instead of thinking one speed hump at a time or one speed camera at a time, or, or whatever have you, or one avenue per bike lane, we do a holistic view of what transportation would look like in the district. And we harmonize those different aspects of it. So in terms of, okay, well, listen, bikes are here. Where would they go? Where would they drop off? Getting better information, to the points that have been raised by the chair and the committee. How are Zipcar and City Bike, how were they a part of the transportation grid in the system? But also, I think just as equal as support, this is what we've heard as well, in terms of how we're partnering and how we're making sure that the community is a part of that conversation. And I think some of the things you'll probably hear some of the frustration, because I think some of the things we wake up and we find the lines painted, and it becomes a conversation to even find out who's responsible. So I just wanted to just kind of preface that, just to kind of set for everyone who's here some of the conversations that have happened. But everyone here can tell you better than I can. They can tell you themselves. So I just thank you again for coming out, and to your team as well for the responsiveness. And we're looking forward to this opportunity to dialogue for this evening. And I will cut it. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I relinquish the floor. Thank you.
All right, thanks for that, Fred. Appreciate it. And Commissioner Bray, if you want to have any, opening address to the committee, feel free if you'd like.
Thank you, Chairperson Norville, and I want to say thank you, CB9, for inviting me here this evening. We've had some great conversations with Chairperson Baptiste, and we've worked together for many years now. Definitely not my first time at CB9, and same with Claudette is here, and also want to say Dan Soriano, who's a rep for CB9, is here also. And yes, we have a great working relationship with CB9, but we know that there can always be improvements. And speaking to Chair Baptiste and the district manager, they said that there were some things that the committee wanted to talk to DOT about, and there was a variety of issues. Chair Baptiste talked about some of them, but certainly I'm here to answer questions, to be a resource, to try to give some thoughts on DOT's thinking, but also to be supportive of sort of that larger vision that the Chairperson Baptiste was talking about earlier for Community Board 9, how we can be a part of that and work better in the future. So with that, I'm happy to answer any questions or listen to any statements you may have.
All right, thank you for that as well. So, starting out, I want to I mean, there are a few people here who are newer, some people here who've been here for a long time, longer than me. And I think I just want to, like, have people be very aware of what the ideal relationship between DOT and, CB9 might be like. And perhaps Commissioner Bray, you can speak a little bit to what, the perfect relationship between DOT and CB9 might look like, because, of course, you want to kind of optimize how we work with you so that things run smoothly and, requests and just actions take as little time as possible.
Yeah, I mean, just briefly, do I think I'll have a perfect relationship with CB9? No. But can we have a working relationship that's productive, that we're moving forward to better relations and trying to reach the goals of not only CB9, but the communities that you are living in and a part of and represent, what they're telling you and what you're trying to work with them on a board to achieve as far as transportation issues are concerned? That's fine. So you obviously Dana Soriano is like the contact for the board, and she works with DM closely for DOT issues. But for sort of the broader effort, as I said to Chair Baptiste and DMLs earlier and last year, we're happy to talk to you about some of the vision you have for Community Board 9, some of your thoughts on what we've done or what you think should be done in this transportation space, and how we can be helpful in achieving your goals.
Thank you. Are there any ways you think the relationship as it is right now could improve?
Again, I don't think there's anything specific that I would say improve or disapprove. I think, like I said, there's 18 community boards in Brooklyn. We have different relationships with all 18 of them. They all operate in 18 different manners and ways and have different expectations for DOT, depending on where they are in Brooklyn and what they expect from us. So what I would say is for CB9, whatever relationship you're looking to have with us, and that's basically what interests you may have and how you would like to achieve those goals in your interest, what we can do at DOT to facilitate and help that in the transportation, safety, public realm field, we're happy to work with you and achieve those goals.
Yeah. So I want to ask Fred for a second. Regarding the vision of CB9, in a sense, regarding transportation, what do you think, like what form do you think it would take? Which form do you think it would take, in our current place? And how do you think, DOT can currently, work with that so we can approach that in the future?
I'll definitely share a thought, but I definitely want to get to the members of the transportation committee, because they've been the warriors in the trenches for a long time. So they'll definitely be able to color that. But my thought is just this. I think that one of the things I want to look at is the relationship or the way we get things done. I think in the past, and this is helpful, when we had our conversation about that, is to use an example, speed humps. We get a request for a speed hump in the district. We process the request of a speed hump in the district. We provide that to DOT. DOT has a process by which they evaluate their speed surveys that are done. There's certain criteria in terms of where it's located, if there's emergency vehicles, and a bunch of other things. And I won't go into the details. But then what happens at the end of that process, which is lengthy, it can take 6 months to a year, from my understanding, we either get a yes or a no. The issue is that, I think some of the frustration is we have gotten a fair number of no's. And the problem, or at least the way I see it, is the issue still remains in terms of residents don't feel safe. There is a traffic issue that exists and it's not taken care of. Now, understanding that some processes just are going to take time, what I would like to see is, or at least discuss, is a shift in the paradigm where we say what the problem is. And I think DOT, as the subject matter experts, are able to help us define what is the best solution for that. So as opposed to saying we put in one application, wait a year, put another application for something else, wait another year, put another application for that, wait another year. I think it's a matter of if we are at least able to identify there's an issue here that the residents have a concern with, DOT can help us identify what's the best way to do that. And again, I think that I don't want to do it even on a block by block basis. I think it's better and more productive for us to do it on a district level basis, where it's like, you know, I think we know the corridors where drivers tend to speed for the red lights. We know the places where a bike lane may make sense or really probably would not make sense at that place. And then even going deeper into the whole bike lane conversation about, okay, well, what's the best way to do that, to implement that? Some places may be more conducive to a protected bike lane. Other places we may have concerns about, okay, well, listen, if you commit that much real estate to the bike lane, does it create other issues unforeseen or that maybe that we have foreseen that, you know, the district can have foreseen? And I'll try and speed it up because I want to make sure that the conversation goes, but ultimately, I just want us to be able to look more holistically at all the modes of transportation. So I think we should be looking at bike lane. We should be looking at city bikes. We should be looking at the car shares. We should be having conversations about what the community engagement is around all of these. And I think that, you know, I want to see those conversations happening more in the front, because again, I think another frustration that happens is sometimes there's a feeling that these things are driven from behind, where they're presented to the district and it's fait accompli. I mean, maybe around the edges, some trimming and some whatever else, but otherwise it's being presented to the district and that's what's happening. And I think what we're looking for is more of a dialogue where the community drives what the needs are and what the priorities are. Okay. And I'm going to go back into mute. I'm sorry. Thank you.
Well, there was a lot to swallow in that statement, and I'm also waiting to hear from the other members of the committee as well. What I will say, I would just talk about speed humps, and I'll probably lead to some of the other questions and comments we may hear from the other committee members. You're right. Typically, DOT has been historically a complaint-driven agency on certain things, and then certain things we haven't been. So when we started the Vision Zero goals in 2014, and then we continue to have that at front and center, there are certain safety goals that we try to reach, and there's metrics for those goals. And we fought for all number of things on that, from lowered speed limits. And even when we talk about like protected bike lanes, yes, it's great for cycling. We want to encourage it, has environmental impact, but also protected bike lanes are safer in that they have traffic safety benefits for both cyclists, vehicular drivers, and pedestrians. So it actually hits our safety goals. It's not just throwing a bike lane, just throw a bike lane out there to upset people. And we see dangerous corridors. So if there's a corridor that's dangerous, you know, Flatbush or Bedford, whatever, these treatments are there to come. Empire Boulevard, 12 years ago, and that's how long I've been working in Brooklyn for a while now, but when Empire Boulevard was 2 lanes in both directions with a little median in the middle, it was actually a pretty dangerous road in Brooklyn, and it was one of the more dangerous ones. The traffic calming that happened after that made it a safer road, and then the capital project's gone in since then. I know it's very inconvenient. Since then, it's going to make it even safer. So those are things that we did. We looked at the data. Data said it was dangerous. We made some safety treatments, tweaked it, made some capital improvement. There were a lot of money to make it safer, and that was helped our goals, not only for the district, but citywide, to make it a safer street, as an example. So with speed humps, you're right. Somebody makes a request, we look at it, we say, okay, yes or no. But we have done a holistic look at them in passing certain areas. Windsor Terrace had an effort where Councilmember Landon wanted to lead an effort to have speed humps, and we worked with CB7 and him on that effort, and then Assemblymember Jim Brannon, and now it's Bobby Carroll, and Hanif, but that time we worked with them on that. At Brooklyn Heights, there was like a slow zone we had there. There was a slow zone we had in Prospect Heights and CB8. So there have been efforts where we did treatments to make things safer on a broader community-wide basis. That's something we can look at again for CB9, where it's not just one thing. And if a speed hump is denied, it's really undenied at this point because it doesn't meet the speed criteria. We look for cars that are going 30 miles and over, it's going to go in. If it doesn't, it won't. That's basically what the criteria is. So we can talk about that and how we can tweak things, but I just want to lead with that certain how we achieve our goals, some of the decision making on it. But yeah, some of these one-offs with speed humps, yeah, that's basically how we look at it in that way. But we can definitely do a more holistic thing. Chair Baptiste, I'm happy to talk. Now I'm talking to you now, but moving forward from this meeting, doing more of a holistic review of CB9. All right, so Chair Norvell, I don't know if you want to call people or how you want to do it.
Well, I'm seeing people are having a little more engagement now, so this would be a good time to bring in more of the Q&A aspect to it. For now, we're gonna try to keep it limited to one question per person, so it doesn't drag on and get super long. So I see 2 people have their hands up right now, and yeah, I think we can start doing Q&As. Rod, you can proceed.
Okay. Hello, Commissioner, and thanks for taking my question or just my comment, I should say. Just to follow up on what you stated with regards to taking a holistic view at a problem or concern that's brought before your office. I have submitted over the years a number of concerns or requests for traffic lights, speed humps, cameras, and so forth. And it appears that whenever a response is received, that my request is rejected or whatever. I guess the thing is, how come there aren't any options or suggested options that can be provided on that response, right? In order to look at it maybe a different way, right? So I may say, hey, a street light will fix the problem, but how come it doesn't come back as a suggestion that a speed hump might be a better option, right? Because I do submit the request to the subject matter experts, and really we rely on them in order to address the concern. So can that be implemented within the process? Or if not, why is there reluctancy to submit options based on a denial?
That's a great comment, and I agree that that's usually how we respond to your request. So if somebody makes a request for traffic signal, I'm going to run with that. We follow federal engineering guidelines, which is basically a lot of it is by volume on a major minor street, preventable crashes, 5 and 36, whatever. I don't need to go into it, but there's federal engineering guidelines that we follow. And if you want more, I can send more details on that after the meeting that we follow. And if it meets any one of those 9 major warrants that we follow in the Manual of Uniform Traffic Control Devices, the MUTCD, we call it, it gets approved. Simple as that. But all-way or a signal. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So with that, you're right. Then we just say to you, we didn't approve it. So, and that ends it as far as we're concerned. So that goes into one silo. But you're right. If they're at that intersection, if there is a pedestrian safety problem or a problem in visibility or something else, we didn't offer you a solution. We didn't offer you anything. We just said, we're not giving you what you wanted. So that's a good point. We do, things are siloed in DOT, and we probably should say, okay, we may not give you a signal, but is there a daylighting? Will that help? Is there a turn calming movement? Will that help? There may be other things. But before we would look at that, I guess one of the problems is that when people ask for a traffic signal and stop sign, they often ask for that because they're looking for the stop sign, traffic signal for traffic or for control of the right of way, and that's what they're there for. But a lot of times people ask for them for speed control devices. And I love what Chair Baptiste said earlier tonight when he said, we want a speed hump because people speed to beat the light. Well, that's exactly what happens. A lot of times people get a traffic signal, they quickly find out people are speeding to beat the light. So it actually didn't help the speeding problem. And it's not supposed to. It's supposed to control the right way. That's what those things, that's what traffic signals and always stop signs are there. So if there is an actual pedestrian safety or some other issue at that intersection, if that's talked about in your request to DOT, then we will farm that out to different units to say, can we look at the safety numbers here? Are there vehicular crashes that are happening in a certain way here? And is there some other treatment that maybe we can look at here? So you're right, we silo it, don't give options, and that's something that we can look into to see if we can be better in the future. Can't make any promises we're going to do it now, but that was a good observation. And you're right.
All right. I'm not seeing any hands raised, but we did have, I believe,
Hold on, there were hands
just getting Tara.
raised. Fran had her hand raised. Miss Westerdahl had her hand raised.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Benny Rosenberger.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Ms. Leopold? Have the floor.
Yes, I'm sorry. Good evening, Commissioner Bray. My name is Francisco Leopold, and I live on Lefferts Avenue between Rogers and Bedford. On my block, I'm the block president, and on my block, I did put in for speed bump, which is Rogers and Bedford. That speed bump was installed from Rogers to Nostrand. Speed bumps were installed over there as well. So from Rogers to Washington, I'm the president for both blocks. So from Bedford to Washington, it's over, I would say over 15 years since we've been since we applied for a speed bump, even before my time. And the first time it was approved, and then they pull it back, and we have had several conversations regarding that stretch of road, because coming from Bedford to, coming from Nostrand to Rogers, we have the speed bump, the still speed. From Rogers to Bedford, but the worst part of it, when they get to Bedford, there is no speed bump, and it's just like a speedway. Several cars has been destroyed on that block. Persons on this block walking across the street, persons would call me and said, hey, this person almost got licked down. Persons have gotten hit by motorists. One person turned in and they hit about 8 cars. And so hearing you saying that when they look at it, and then because of what criteria that it would meet that criteria, and that stretch of road, it more than meet the criteria for the speed bump. I mean, when the community board have been fighting and fighting, we've been fighting. The members, residents on the block have sent petition to Rita Joseph's office. And Rita Joseph said that they will reach out to DOT, and nothing has been done. Now, persons I am petitioning for them, I'm speaking on their behalf, but those people who are on the block, they know that what they've been experiencing. They know the dangers. In the summer, they have children running across the street, and we do need a speed bump. So I don't understand, why is it okay to have a speed bump from Nostrand coming all the way down to Bedford, but when you cross Bedford to go to Washington, it's a different criteria for putting a speed bump there. Instead of placing a speed bump, they put a speed trap. And some persons still can't complain. And we are asking for a speed bump so that the motorists could slow down. But instead of that, the city put a speed trap to charge persons, to get monies from people. And it is unacceptable. It is something that we have been crying about. We've been shouting. We have been sending letters. But yet still, they haven't given me a reason enough as to why we cannot have a speed bump there, but the next block and the block over has a speed bump. We do need a speed bump, and I'm just asking that you look into it.
Concise. Can we try to avoid making our questions quite long? Thank you.
Okay, Keith, may I respond?
Yes, please.
Okay, so you can give me the exact location again. I'm sorry, I didn't.
It's Lefferts between Bedford and Washington, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it sometimes we get this quite often. So you can have a block that actually we will install a speed hump, but you may get the next block, it may not be feasible, and it may not be feasible due to driveways or utilities or maybe the distance of the roadway, the width of the roadway. So it really varies, and every roadway is not exactly the same. So that could be the issue. However, what we will do is we will look into this tomorrow, and we will definitely get back to you, or the community board, Dante, we'll let you all know exactly the reason why it was denied. And if it's something that we can actually reach out to traffic planning and have them revisit it again, we will do so.
I definitely want to say
Thank you.
that Councilmember Joseph and CB9 have advocated for the speed hump. I actually know that. I do remember this block. Claudette is going to look for it and get back to you, but you're correct. They have advocated on your behalf. So I know they've reached out, and Diana, I think, was looking for a speed camera here and some other stuff. So yeah, we are aware of it, but Claudette, like she said, we'll be getting back to you.
I want to remind the committee again, if you can compress your questions, please do. I'm gonna keep things moving and avoid questions that are, a bit longer. If you can get the main point of your question across, it should be pretty easy to have folks answer it. And also, Commissioner Bray, I want to follow up on that and just ask, how often does DOT give reasons behind like denials for things like this?
We usually send a generic letter, right, Claudette, that says it was denied or didn't meet criteria, basically.
We
And
do.
go ahead.
We do. We send a standard response, but so we have a standard response if the speeds are low. If there is because of a bus route, a truck route, utilities in the roadways, driveways, those letters are actually specific. So because in this case, it sounds like there has not been given a reason. It sounds like it's due to speeds. But like I said, we will definitely check it. And, just to make sure if it speeds, we will revisit it again.
Okay, because I think it would be worth it for people to have a bit less ambiguity, so they're not wondering for months and even years and repeating the same request. If they know why, they might probably change behavior. Ms. Westerdahl, you have the floor.
Hi, thank you for calling on me. I was hoping to hear from the members of the committee because I know that people have worked for a number of years on various locations, and they would have a very good working list that would be appreciated. But I'll go since you called on me. Thank you. And I do love my speed bumps. When they were gone, we had more than 15 accidents on our block when they were repaving the road. And when they came back, those accidents stopped. But anyway, I'm glad you brought up Empire Boulevard. That's my main concern, and where I have worries on behalf of our entire community. I know that there were some traffic calming measures, but it's really not enough. And there's also an issue with bike lanes on Empire Boulevard. I've been trying to get a bike lane from Bedford to the park, to Prospect Park. That's a main corridor where we could really use some bike lanes. There's no really other way except for Empire Boulevard to get into Prospect Park from Crown Heights. If you're in the lower portion below Eastern Parkway, it's downhill. If we go to Empire, we try to go into the park and there's no bike lane. And I have had my child twice almost killed in that area. A woman was killed on a corner by my house, a bicyclist. And there's no bike lane there from Bedford, several blocks into down Flatbush and Ocean Parkway that leads directly into Prospect Park. That's a very dangerous corridor, and I'm really hoping for change there. There's also that DOT took over a little park on Empire and Washington Franklin area, small park that we'd like to have a memento for a person that was killed in that area. And that park is also that little park, that concrete area. There's just a couple of trees there now. It's mostly concrete. And in this time of climate change, this area, is now a big concrete slab where it was more trees. It was a road. Why? I just don't understand why some rain gardens weren't put in there, why some more soil wasn't put in there. It's excavating, and it seems like DOT doesn't care. Like the DOT has that property now, it was given to DOT, and I know it's been brought to this committee and other committees several times. And I serve on the Environmental Protection Committee. My name's Teresa Westerdahl, and I've been working on that for some time. So I want that park concrete slab now to be something that's environmentally friendly, not concrete. And I'd like some bike lanes there. And I've been working on this from the time my daughter was almost killed, and she's 18 now. Okay? I want those bike lanes there, and I want my community to be safe. I want protected bike lanes. So that's what I'm looking for, and I'm wondering why you won't put them in. So thank you for listening to my question, and I'm a little bit passionate about this, so you may hear that in my voice because I've been working on it for a long time, and I appreciate you all listening to me. So thank you.
Well, thank you for bringing your passion and commitment to the subject, and I really appreciate that. So I think going back to something that Chair Baptiste said before about community vision and what the community would like to see, I think this, for me, is part of a start of a conversation with DOT. I mean, there are like some things that are smaller, like speed humps, and yes, we can have a larger vision about those, but people are looking for those, like we just heard before. We'll look into specific cases. I think when it comes to bike lanes, that's something I think we should have a larger community conversation about. What people think they should go, where it should go. It should be a conversation that's broader than a community board, frankly. I think elected officials, block associations, others should be a part of that conversation to see where they think in CB9 that would fit. And then as part of a process, we can look into see if that would work on Empire or any other location. So it's not that I'm close to it. I think it's a fine idea and it's something that geometrically I'm sure could work. But I would like that to be rolled into a sort of a broader process that, we're sort of starting the conversation with. So that's sort of how I would answer that. As far as that large space there, I have to check on it. I thought we actually gave it back to Parks. So I need to check on that, if that's DOT or Parks or not, because I'm not sure. And Dan, I'm assuming you're taking notes. I'm pretty sure you are, but we need to check on that area to see what the management of it is. I mean, I will say that when this that island was built, it may have been to design standard that we probably wouldn't be today, because you're right. Our copper projects are with more greening and environmentally friendly, more permeable spaces, something to help, and that's sort of an older paradigm that we have there. So you're right, that maybe could be improved, but I need to look at to the management space, because there may be some elements that may be added to it. And then lastly, I would just like to say again, with my history of Community Board 9, and this is many of you I don't know and have not met before or spoken to. And Fred is probably the one I've had the longest relationship with. But some of the long-term members would know, I was just talking about Empire Boulevard, but pretty much most of the efforts that DOT even made in this, your community board, and it probably has a lot to do with the communication and our outreach and how we approach the community, which I don't think the DOT did a really good job in the past on that. But CB9 didn't support them. I mean, they pretty much didn't support any of it. Even what we did in Empire Boulevard, they didn't support. So that I think it was a communication problem that Chair Baptiste was talking about before that needed to get better, and how DOT needs to improve. And so one of the ways I think to do that is, again, instead of being DOT sort of dictating or going against the community, let's have a community conversation about what they would like to see, a broad conversation, not just this board and not just committee, a broad conversation about what they want to see, what they would like in the community, and then we could go from there. That's how any sort of bike lane or larger things, that's probably where I'm going to default my answers to. So just previewing.
Commissioner, thank you very much for that. So absolutely, we can start that process pretty quickly. There's a lot of great people on who've already started some of that work. So there are other stakeholders. Absolutely, let us know, and I think it's something. Let's convene that and let's get that conversation started. Again, so I think we want to make sure that there's something comprehensive, that's a holistic plan for the district as well, with safety paramount. But thank you for those comments. I'm sorry, Chair, I didn't mean to jump in. I just wanted to say amen there for a couple of comments.
No, you're fine. And we actually recently, the committee recently passed a bike lane plan where we don't just add one lane to one street or one block. We actually connect, we wanted to provide a bit of a vision where some bike lanes in the community connect to others so that people don't end up in a bike hostile area after being on a bike lane previously. And we've actually made some mock-ups and some designs for how this could look. Yeah, we're not trying to do the, I want bike lanes here approach to it, because we want there to be a broad discussion and have the community benefit and have their voice heard. But we also want to have that plan, be linked to a bigger vision and not be piecemeal, and have the conversation revisited every 3 months. So I think we're on the same page there, but we already do have a start to that. And, we would like to, have that, where DOT is so they can take a look at it and assess, and we can have a good back and forth going. See some progress. Mr. Abraham, you have the floor.
Hi there. Thank you for coming, Commissioner, and for all your work and your colleagues. I've seen the tremendous work you've done for many years, and I appreciate it. I guess I'd like to just follow up on the comment you just made and that Fred, that you just made as well. I really agree that comprehensive planning is great, and it helps with like long-term goals and like, the way I think the city council is mapping out for like the Greenway master plan, like for long-term vision. So I fully support that. I'll go to all of those meetings for it, as I've gone for many years to meetings similar to it. My concern is the interim. And, like Commissioner Bray, you mentioned Empire Boulevard before. That was 2012, I think. Or no, I think it was 2009. Yeah, it was earlier. It was 2009. And that was the last bike lane within CB9 proper. And so things take time. It takes time for community meetings to happen, and it takes time for your staff to make presentations and then the back and forth. I'm just really worried about the interim, where if we keep aiming for everyone to be involved in things that we like, you have so much data on what works and what doesn't, right? That like, I'm worried that CB9 is going to catch up to where, many other community boards were in 2012, let's say, and that we're on year 10 of Vision Zero. And, that we're talking about like putting in bike lanes or even a bike network. Like, imagine if we planned our roads for cars this way. Like, well, we don't need a road for a car there because we have one 2 blocks away. Like, I'm just worried that trying to make it perfect at the wholesale level is, I agree with it, but I'm worried that in that interim, in that long delay, people just get hurt. The number of cyclists here in CB9 now compared to a decade ago vastly changed. City Bike is here now, right? We have more rogue driving during the pandemic era with people without license plates and or ghost tags and stuff, that like the conditions have changed so vastly. And so I feel like we haven't caught up to where we need to be, let alone to where we want to go. And it's just a long process. I want to give it the right attention, but I'm just worried about all the injuries that are going to happen while we just wait. So I'm just, yeah, I don't know. I'm curious, how do we handle that interim? Like, we have a CB that's been talking about this for many years. I know, Fred, we went on that bike ride 7 years ago. And nothing's happened since. We've just been talking about it. And then we have Councilmember Rita Joseph is very adamant about, she put out a legislation asking for 100 miles of bike lanes, which is a great idea. It's too much, right? You don't have capacity to do that. But the intent I see is great, that she wants to make roads safer for everyone to be able to use them. And I fear the amount of injuries that are just going to keep accruing if we're only looking at the big picture and get everyone's input without striking while the iron is hot on some things that we just know, oh, there's a bike lane that dead ends right at CB9 start. Why do we not continue? Like, it seems like there's some low-hanging fruit that we should tackle in the interim while we also do the widespread master planning of it all. And I also realize, like, your agency has limitations of capacity and, budget and many things. So I still appreciate everything you do, and I know you're doing a lot with a little. So thank you for all the advocacy. But I'm very proud of the success that you've had throughout Vision Zero. I just wish more of it had come to CB9 already.
We appreciate that, and thank you for that. There are many things that we can do on an interim basis while we have a community conversation about, some of the safety treatments that CB9 wants to look at. And if there are a lot of hot spots that need to be addressed, there are some intersection improvements we can talk about. Obviously, Mayor made announcements, 1,000 intersections we can make safer. There could be other treatments we can look at that are shorter bike lanes that we can do that in the interim. We always, put in a speed camera, short-term mode speed camera. There's like other things we can do. As far as, again, in the past, and you're talking about Empire Boulevard, so like I said, I've been working in this office since 2008, and had a long relationship. I remember my days at Pearl Miles and Rabbi Goldstein were the chair and the DM at the time. And DOT had their visions and plans, but we went ahead of the community. And so when we got ahead of the community there, Paco, what happened was the community fought back and we didn't have consensus of support, and then we couldn't move forward. So that's why I like what Chair Baptiste, Chair Norville is saying is, let's have a conversation and iterate. It's not to say, when I say consensus, I'm not expecting all members of CBI to vote and say, I like this plan. I've never, beside a plan that says I'm gonna give everybody $1 million, I can't think of any policy that anybody's gonna support 100%. That does not exist, and we don't expect that. So that's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is we can have a conversation with the community, and it's iterative, and see if we can get to a goal and achieve something that a community will buy into the process to where we got to the final answer. So I like what Chair Norville said. He said we have a bike plan, and I haven't seen it, so that'll be a good start. Share that plan. It'd be great to look at it, and then we can talk to our bike group. Then we can move forward with conversation. You're right. Councilmember Joseph has talked about it. Senator Cunningham met with Commissioner Rodriguez and talked about it. So yes, it's there, and that's great. But I think if there's short-term things, DOT can do the short-term things that are hotspots, we can do it while we're still doing a long-term vision. I think that vision will get buy-in and with people instead of like what happened in the past that DOT dictated and just said, we're going to do this. And then we send CB9 a letter to say, this is what we're doing.
And I agree with, just very quickly, I agree with what the commissioner is saying. We don't have to let perfect be the enemy of good. I mean, if there's things, the low-hanging fruits, the point that you made, Paco, things that we can do that make things safer and better, there's no reason for us to wait. And I think those are the conversations we can have. And I'm glad you brought that up. So the bike lane that I think you guys discussed and everything, yeah, let's put it on the table. Let's see what it looks like. But I think also making sure that we're doing these things against the backdrop of a larger vision eventually as well. But absolutely, I mean, we don't have to stand still until we come up with a perfect plan. If there's things that make sense, absolutely, let's proceed with that. Oh, and Commissioner Bray, I think that they would disagree about the $1 million. They say, why only $1 million?
Mr. Magnus, you have the floor.
All right, thank you. And thank you again all for being here. It's really significant. And much to the topic of this conversation tonight, I do want to ask about capital projects. I've been really thankful and very fortunate to see a lot of major street safety improvements over the last couple of years. But you know, around me, there's a ton that seem to be getting stalled in closeout or just never make it out of the design phase. So I'd really like if you or your office is able to provide some kind of update on some of these projects in CB9, especially because we want to use our energy on this board and in this community most effectively. Like if you need a community push to restart a project that sort of died on the operating floor, like the Ocean Avenue bike lane with Parks, that seems like on your commitment tracker, it's gone, it's not there anymore. Like we're happy to be that community push. On the other hand, if a project is approaching completion, like we can go around and see the surrounding network and see what kind of actual like node and line improvements need to be made in the surroundings. Like the capital project at Flatbush, Lincoln, and Washington, that triangle has been in closeout for almost 11 months now. And wouldn't you know it, that's also a portion of the district where there's a bike lane that just stops for like 100 feet before Prospect Park and forces, you know, drivers, cyclists, vehicles, buses to just kind of have a two-way brawl for like 200 feet. Can a capital project that's approaching completion be accompanied with on-the-spot improvements that are not capital, but could be part of a comprehensive thing that don't take like a full multiple years long meeting? I'd really like to see that, especially as new versions of the NUTCD encourage safer pedestrian alignments, and as our local electeds have like voiced their support for things like daylighting. I would really like to see these things all come together at once. Thank you. I don't know if you're able to provide answers to that specifically, but like when we make our plans, we want to make our plans timely and realistically. You set goals that should be SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Like we need your help to do that.
Thank you for that. I will just 3 quickie follow-ups to that. So Ocean Avenue, as far as I'm concerned, I thought was still moving forward. I don't know about what happened to commitment tracker, but I know the last I checked a month or 2 ago, I think it was, I have to find out. I want to say it's 2026, but I need to find out. But that is a high priority for the agency, and we worked a long, hard road with the Prospect Park Alliance and the Parks Department to get that done. So, because it has a large impact on a lot of mature trees. So I'll find out about that, but I thought that was moving. I think that's moving forward, and that was not cutting the capital program. I will say, as far as the capital program is concerned, if there's new needs or new projects, currently we can propose them. I'm not going to be optimistic to say that within a 5-year capital plan we will get any in the current budget environment right now. But I will say that, you know, it would be, you know, community should always push for projects they want to see in the capital realm. We can see what we can do about them, and it always helps to have community support and push for that. As far as that Franklin Flatbush, and unfortunately, there was a fatality recently. I was actually out there. You know, Chair Norwell was out there with me. Councilman Joseph called us, and the precinct was there also. We were looking at maybe some things to change there. I mean, that the whole build out there was actually partially supporting to make it safer there for pedestrians. And so I don't know why that there are still some hanging items there. So we'll talk to our sister agency at DDC to see what the issue is there. And lastly, you're right, there's been some big changes to MUTCD. I saw, read with some interest. I haven't dug into it greatly, but I've read it with some interest. There have been some changes of orientation, and I think it's great that is a lot of the more complete street and safety packages that have been talked about through NACDO and other organizations are being included in that. And I think that's a great victory, and it's good that the federal DOT is doing that. I will say just one tangent I'm going to go on, and sorry about this, Chair Norville and Chair Baptiste, but I will go this one tangent, and then I'm happy to go to Ms. Robertson. I found with interest that when the door fell off that plane, the 737 MAX 9, everybody said the planes won't go in the air until it's complete safety, and nothing's going to happen. And as far as plane travel is concerned, if anything causes any safety or loss of life, Americans have strong consensus that we need to do what it takes to make it safe. And we will do whatever, and we'll support the FAA and bureaucrats and everybody else to make that happen. I wish we had the same thing for cars and vehicles and cyclists and pedestrians. We don't. Obviously, if you say things like, oh, lower the speed limit from 65 to 55, people think you're giving their God-given right, so it'll probably like throw you out of office. So we don't have the same thing on the streets and roads, unfortunately. But what we always happy to look at things to make them safer as we can. But again, a consensus process with the neighborhood is always, I think, the best way for DOT to go when we try to make safety improvements in the capital plan. And that's what, if we're going to do something like that in CB9, Mr. Magnus, that's what we would look to do moving forward.
I'm glad to hear that. There seems to be a pretty big appetite for speed in CB9 now. And you know, we're gonna have to balance that with safety. But I think also what'll help with that too is responsiveness, you know, when it comes to us and DOT and just that whole, you know, symbiosis there. Mr. Robertson, you have the floor.
Okay. Hello, everyone. It's great seeing you. And hello, Commissioner. I'm happy that you're here. My family has been living here since 1970s, so we've seen a lot of changes here. My husband and I have formed a block association called WABA. That's Washington Avenue Brooklyn Botanical Association. So we're here to protect that garden. We also have another association called Crown Heights Community Council, CHCC. So for quite a while, or some years, I should say, I would say 9 years, I have been putting in requests with the help of the community board, of course, to put some sort of, I asked for a speed camera here on Montgomery and Washington, which is right across from the Botanical Gardens. We have the 48 bus that runs through Washington Avenue. But in that request, the Transportation or DOT placed the speed camera down towards Sullivan. So it doesn't help us here on Montgomery because all of the accidents are occurring here. We have cars that go into the store in the corner. We have cars that go into the building there at 921 Washington. We have pedestrians getting hit. Even the people that work in the garden, they're getting hit as well. So I don't know what it's to take for us to get something here or bring the camera up, because once the camera passes a certain parameter there, here on Washington Avenue, which is starts from Empire, then it goes up towards Eastern Parkway, as you stated, they see that light and they race to it. So it gives no one a chance to cross the street. There's no protection whatsoever. So what can we do to ensure that no one else gets hit or no cars go into these buildings and the store? One thing we cannot do, and we had help with Tish James when the 48 bus was removed, and we requested to have the 48 bus to come back because she said you cannot have a speed bump if you have a bus. So we said we would like to continue the bus, but we need something else that would stop us from getting hit, and I mean severely hit. Okay, I believe someone did get killed and they moved the bike. They had a bike as a memorial. Okay, so what can we do to stop this?
Yes, there was a fatality of a cyclist at Washington. I don't remember the exact details, but I do remember that, and there was a ghost bike there for a while.
Right.
Yeah, so I definitely looked, as you've been talking, I've been looking at things to see emails, because I think a lot of stuff I think Dana was looking into, because, you know, Dante advocated for you and asked her about them. I do see Washington, I do see that we, you know, I think there's the St. Francis School for the Deaf in PS 375.
There is.
Right.
They put something there, but
Yeah,
it still negates our spot right here.
Right. So what we can do is we can look again to see if we could put speed cameras there. So between Diana or Dante, whatever, we can, I know we gave our former answer to him, and I'm sure he passed it along to you, but we can look at it again to see if maybe there's another place to put a speed camera. If that is not that, then like I said, going back to sort of the earlier conversation that I had Mr. Rob Herbert, maybe there's something else we can do. So maybe we can explore something else. So let me check
Well,
on this. We can check the speed camera first to see if there's something else.
Okay, so why was the speed camera placed in an area that we didn't request for it to be placed?
I don't know. I don't have the answer to that. It may have been placed there. Some of the speed cameras were placed in areas where we got requests. Some were placed there by known speeding locations that we knew about before. So I don't know exactly why we did the placement the way we put them. But that's why I said we can check again to see if there's another place we could put them. The other thing is, by state legislation, we were only allotted a certain amount of fixed cameras citywide. So we've been putting them in all the 5 boroughs. And so that may have been something, I don't know. So I just have to, on the location wise on Washington and those other streets and not where you want it, I don't have the answer. We can look into it. Maybe we
I would
can-
appreciate it.
We'll find out.
I would appreciate it, yes, here on Montgomery. And one last thing, I hear everyone speak of the safety of the bikes and bike lanes. Okay, there are bike lanes that should be placed strategically in other areas where it's needed, whereas what I'm trying to say is this: you have the bus, you have the trains. Okay, in the areas that do not have these buses and trains, there's no cycles, there's no bikes there, there's no protection, there's nothing. And the other thing I would like to stress, we need to make sure that these cyclists have insurance. They have to have insurance. They have to have instructions, as I and any other driver had to do, to make sure that we know the safety of the road. That would be very helpful. And that would help in preventing a lot of these accidents that are occurring. Because I have to look both ways. I can't look one way, I gotta look both ways, okay? Not to say that I'm not a cycler, okay? I try to do everything, cycle, exercise, but I need my car too, okay? So for it to be equitable and for everyone and for it to be fair to everyone, including the cyclers. I mean, like, for instance, I have my bike, I have a license. Anything happens to me, I have to use my insurance. I think cyclists should have license as well. And I'll tell you, a lot of these accidents that are occurring, it would be a minimum because they have to spend money now. Okay, and they have to be careful and they have to be taught how to ride their bikes and where to ride the bikes. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And DOT completely agrees with you that everyone needs to be responsible user of the road and share it safely. So 100% agree with you.
All right, at this point, we're going to close the speakers list. So the last call for questions. If anyone wants to add one, you may, but we don't want to go too far over 8 with this segment. So if you have a question, you can raise your hand now, but if not, those will be the last 2 speakers. Mr. Rosenberger, you have the floor.
Thank you. Nice to meet you, Commissioner Bray. To add to the previous speaker, I mean, obviously, we all have to share the road, you know, bikes, pedestrians, cars, buses. And considering that, I mean, I think that there are a lot more cars on the road than there are of the other 3 categories. We have to give, we have to keep that in mind before we take over the road and give it to everybody else. One case in point, I don't know if this is before your time, but I saw that once they turned Rogers and it was a Nostrand into a bus lane avenues, I noticed that the amount of traffic that was backed up on both of those roads increased, I don't know, maybe 2, 3, 4 times. And so I actually looked up the studies that were done on before they actually made those roads into one lane into bus lanes, and it seems like they based it off a road in the Bronx, and they turned one of the lanes into a bus lane, and they determined that they didn't back up traffic too much. The only difference was that road in the Bronx was a 4-lane road, so they took away 25% of the capacity and turned it into a bus lane. Here they took away 50% of the capacity of the roads, and on top of that, all you need is one double parked car, and all of a sudden traffic is decreased by 75%. So I mean, I was a little disappointed on how the analysis was done, because they didn't they didn't really predict very well how this was going to affect traffic. Another thing is regarding like bike lanes. So the bike lanes also have a big impact on a road. If you have, let's say, a street like, let's say, Brooklyn Avenue, for instance, if you want to put right now it's 2 lanes and it moves pretty smoothly, and it's actually one of the remaining avenues going south anyway that provide a good pathway to get through Crown Heights. If you go ahead and put a bike lane on that road, unless you're going to remove one of the parking lanes, which is another problem, you're going to decrease you're not going to have two lanes of traffic anymore. You're going to have only 1 lane, and that's going to destroy another north-south pathway through the community. I was thinking maybe a suggestion would be that since bus lanes already decrease traffic, maybe we should combine bike lanes and bus lanes, so that way you don't have to impact other avenues that are moving smoothly, and provide a quick way to get through the area.
So concise.
That's that's my suggestion, is that we have to keep in mind we want to go ahead and provide everybody a safe way to use the roads. However, we don't want to impact the largest group of people that are using the roads while we're doing that. So that's just my comment.
I was around, we did the Nostrand Rogers bus lanes. It was an iterative process where our first proposal actually, and I think you were referring to Fordham Road, which was a successful bus lane in the Bronx. Our first proposal actually was for 24/7. That changed with a lot of community feedback to what you have now is 7 to 7 Monday to Friday, and some of them was even 7 to 4 different times when it narrows and widens. So it was like different time periods. So those were compromises that were made with the community at the time when they pushed back on our original proposals. I would just say that at the time, and obviously the pandemic has had a great impact on ridership on public transit, unfortunately, that we were trying to move buses faster to look out for the vast majority of, not the vast majority, but majority of New Yorkers who don't own a vehicle. So they use mass transit, and we were trying to use a mode of travel to get them to go faster to where they need to go. And that's what we were trying to do. We were going on busier bus routes, and 44, you know, those were one of the busiest ones. We did it on Utica as well. And we actually, obviously, we started the process of B41 on Flatbush also. But we look at those bus routes to see if there's ways to help bus riders. That was the whole intention. There's no question that with those changes, there was an impact on traffic. We did change the signal timing, but the main thing was whether there was a traffic impact or not was to help bus ridership. And I think over time, people get used to the traffic. And I don't know if, I mean, again, anecdotal experience can say a lot, and I'm not saying your experience is not wrong, is wrong. I just said, I believe some of the after studies we showed said that there was a loss of service in certain locations, certain intersections, but overall, I don't think it was that big. And then, in fact, at night, when the bus lane is no longer in action, oftentimes the Rogers and Nostrand actually become speedways. People drive very fast on them. So, you know, we balanced that. And again, as we have this larger community conversation that Chair Baptiste and Chair Norville are talking about, those are points of views we like to hear because we want to hear your point of view and respect it and have that a part of that conversation. So yeah, thank you for providing that point of view.
Suki, you have the floor.
Hi, it's nice to meet you, Commissioner Bray. Since I'm the last person, and I'm pretty sure that a lot of blocks have various specific issues they want to ask you about. I know we have a number of things. Could I ask you to give us the contact information for the best person to reach out to, like not just kind of a general number where we're going to get back a general answer, but maybe like a contact for our district who could explain things to us just like you've been doing tonight?
Absolutely, it's Diana Siriano, and she's actually in contact with the district office, and Dante has the information, so you can certainly work through Dante and get to Diana. She'd be happy to answer questions. And like I said, some of the questions you're bringing up, I'm familiar with them because Dante brought to our attention the board's concerns, and I can now know as board members who are asking about it, I know where they come from. So he's already doing that, and I know he'll diligently continue to do that.
Okay, that'd be great. Thank you. And then the second question is, in terms of like broader policy issues, with respect to like the density of city bike stations in the district, car share stations, you know, like understanding what is the DOT's policy behind that. Is that something you can speak to, or is that something that you want to be part of the community board conversation?
I mean, bike share, I could probably share a presentation with Dante and share it to give you a little bit more on that. Basically, with bike share, we want a network that's dense enough that people can find a bike or in an area they don't have to walk very far, like half a mile to find a bike. So there's a dense enough network where people can find a bike and are encouraged to use that bike within that network. And we basically have a certain square area that you probably see in a map where we try to fill it in. And so that's sort of how we were doing City Bike and the expansion of City Bikes. As far as car share is concerned, it's a little different program. Basically with car share, we had a pilot program. We thought the pilot, we didn't think, but there's a study, and I can also share this with the board office that can give to the board. There's some studies online that we have on our website that I can share with you. But we found, you know, it's not a large percentage, but a very small percentage, but some number of people actually gave up vehicles and used car share to use as a substitute for rental cars. And so both the largest one and Getaround, Zipcar, I don't know, lost it for a second, Zipcar and Getaround, two companies that had success in that pilot program, and they decided to expand it, and they went to other neighborhoods to do it. So it's not a density requirement of car share. It's basically we were looking at areas to see car usage and what by metrics to see if it would be someplace that would be useful for people in the community. And that's why it's not like all over the place, like sort of like City Bike. is for people is at certain places. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. We've actually had with CarShare both Get Around and Zipcar, they've actually taken out stations that haven't had the usage that we would like to see. So they've changed and been either removed or relocated. So we could talk more about that or have more explanation for you with the P-Fund the CarShare program moving forward and have a presentation. I want to say, I guess we did that, but if we didn't, I'm sure we can have some discussion about CarShare with the board.
All right, we're looking to wrap this segment up in the next few minutes. The next and last person who got their question in before the cutoff was Kendall Christensen. But if it goes quickly, we can probably fit a couple more in. Kendall Christensen, you have the floor. You're muted.
How about now? You hear me okay? Good, thank you. Commissioner, a question about EV charging. Can you update us on what DOT is doing to expand curbside EV charging, particularly in row house neighborhoods like ours that don't have driveways?
Yeah, briefly, we're working on a Con Ed pilot program to see how it works for them. I think we're still waiting to, and we'll have to get back to you on this. It's something else we could probably talk to the board office about to get to you. I think the pilot is almost over, but if we're going to do an expansion from that, which I know the city is very interested in, we'd have to work with Con Ed on that. I don't know how it's going, so we just have to talk to utilities, see how that is working right now before I can say we're going to have a widespread EV thing. I will say for DOT, we're definitely doing more in our municipal garages, our municipal fields. We're trying to encourage private garages and private operators to do the same thing with EV. So we're definitely pushing that. But you're right. As far as neighborhoods are concerned, we have the pilot. We're waiting for results of that pilot to see what the next steps are.
All right. Marion, you have the floor. Fred, you can continue.
I'm sorry, was mine a?
Yeah, mine had her hand up, but I didn't.
Lowered her hand.
Okay.
Fred, good.
All right, no, just very, very, very quick points. Yeah, I think around all those things that were mentioned, when it comes to City Bike, when it comes to the car shares, now we're talking about EV charging as well. I think one of the big things is we want to make sure, this is one of the things we want to make sure that there are dialogues that are happening with regards to these. Because again, to the point I made earlier, they pop up. I mean, I hear that there's a city pilot, there's pilot programs, there's studies that are being done. And I'll even say that we probably even know that they're being done, but we don't understand the impact. So it worked in Carroll Gardens, but now all of a sudden it's in Crown Heights. We think that there needs to be more dialogue and there needs to be notifications to the communities that are going to be affected, especially during the implementation, because I think that there are things that we need to understand about that, and we need to have that input. To the questions about density and how many of these are coming in, and I think it's a lot. It's been a frustration where a lot of people all of a sudden, if you're an Uber driver and you park at night, then all of a sudden you lose 6 spots in the block around you. That's a lot. And I think we want to have those conversations around when these things come in, how they're coming in, and what those conversations about are when they're coming in as well. And they're not just being dropped on us as, and that's it. And that's all the community has to do with that. Thank you.
I'll just say briefly, Chair Baptiste agrees with you 100%. That's why he said what he said at the beginning. Planning, let us know about it and talk about it beforehand. So yeah, I agree with that. He agrees with that. So I will say I agree with that as well. And I'm glad you sort of zeroed in around a little bit that has not been directly addressed, but sort of was talked about. Everything we're talking about, whether it's protected bike lanes or EV charging or car share or bike share or a lot of other things, they do have impacts on vehicle parking, and there's no question about that. And I read with great interest that article in the New York Times about the amount of vehicles and the parking spaces. And New York City and parking has always been funny, but I think we've gone from the first Mad Max movie to the third one, like Thunderdome. It's like that gotten that bad in New York City. So conceding that, I'm glad you said that, because yes, DOT has to be sensitive to the community of that, because believe me, we hear about it all the time in our initiatives.
Elise? At the front.
Yeah, good evening, Commissioner. I don't know if you remember me, but you and I met back a few years back when we were trying to make Medgar Evers street closed, and we had all those debates going back and forth. We want to make that street one way. I know that was a few years ago, but I need to take an issue with what you just said a minute ago, and that was that you are envisioning the bike racks, the city bikes, to not be a mile or 2 miles away from people to get access to it. But I kind of like, I mean, this is my neighborhood, this is my community, so I see where these bike racks are located, and they're just so close to each other. If you go to Parkside and you come down Flatbush, there is one bike rack at every other block. And if you go over here on Flatbush Avenue, where the aquarium is, there is one bike rack in the middle of that stretch, one at the entrance of Prospect Park, and one over there at Grand Army Plaza. So I'm trying to really figure out what the logic is in setting up these city bikes around, especially around our community, because I don't follow the pattern. I don't follow the logic.
I can only answer with the answer I gave. We want a dense enough network that people can find a bike and use it. And if bikes are not used in certain racks, they can walk someplace not too far away and get another bike in the system. So that's really the logic behind it. I understand, maybe it's not a perfectly smooth system throughout the city of New York. I mean, it's in 4 boroughs and it's not, but at the same time, that is the program density. There's been a lot of pushback on that. I mean, we were lucky when we first expanded City Bike in CB9. It was basically all west of, I think mostly west of Washington. We were lucky in that we found mostly sidewalk locations. So it was not, there was not a lot of pushback. And obviously, as we went through the rest of the district, we took a lot of, on-street parking, and that became a very contentious issue that we knew it always was going to be. So understanding that may not be a satisfactory logic to you, and believe me, there have been a lot of people who strongly push back on city bike expansion. I can assure you, in both CB9 and other boards we're in, and CB17 and 8 and other ones, and 7, they all done the same thing. So it's not like we haven't heard that, and we do. We did have a goal to expand bike share in the city, and that's why we did that. And we try to have the densified network to make it successful. That's where we are. But the future of the program or anything else is sort of up in the air right now. I mean, this program is going to last, but I mean, it's saying like the future expansion or whatever is up in the air. Nothing's going into CB9 that I'm aware of anytime soon beyond what's already there.
One last question.
Can the whole planning and the logic of how these city bikes been placed be revisited to make sure that it actually is the appropriate location for these city bikes?
We're not, there's no, any station that's currently there is probably not, it's not probably, it's not going to be moved unless it's for a construction purpose or resurfacing the street or something like that. So those stations are going to stay. So I'm just going to say that they're going to stay, except for some purpose like that. Moving forward, if we want to have a discussion about it, that's fine. If there's questions you want to ask about the network, there's certainly, you can send us in writing, and we'll give you a written response and answer it. And we're happy to do that. We're a public agency. We are responsive to the public. We have to be, and we want to be. So we're happy to do that.
Just very briefly, I wanted to, I apologize, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to touch this. I think some of the feeling about that is at the initial rollout for City Bike, I remember they had public workshops where, and I know several members who are here, I saw them at the workshops, and they went there and they were part of that process in terms of saying, city bikes make sense here. City bikes make sense here. By the way, if you go over here, there's some great, there's a lot of space, free space on the sidewalk that you can do that. And that was something that I think contributed to the success of City Bike, because we were part of that planning. And I think what's missing at this point is, and I think you kind of alluded to that, it's a process that's running on its own at this point, where it's like, okay, well, when they're doing rollouts, they'll do the rollouts. And when they're not doing the rollouts, they'll stop doing rollouts. And that's not a conversation anymore, which is the concern that we have in terms of, we want to make sure that these are conversations that are happening with input from the community. I just wanted to make that point. Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I apologize for the interruption.
Good point, Chair Baptiste.
Yeah. And one just bring one more thing as well. The OC car share program, there's a lot of pushback on it from the committee and from the community as well, because people kind of just woke up and saw it there. We didn't get enough involvement in the rollout of those, if I recall correctly. So just want to add that, the same way city bikes, there's always going to be, people for and against. But it seems like car share took a lot of folks, it kind of took me by surprise a little bit, and we kind of want to have that heads up, or at least like a bit of a planning stage involvement from DOT and things like this, especially when they're, taking away something that was, being used in a sense. So people might, suddenly use 2 or 4 or 6, spots around their block that they previously had access to. It might not, might warrant more of a discussion than, let's say, the sidewalk mounted city bike set on Empire in New York Avenue, something like that. So I just wanted to like reaffirm that, one thing that this district wants is more involvement on that level, so we can either prepare or at least get some feedback before it fully rolls out.
Hear you loud and clear. So yes, and that was a critique that I thought that was a valid one about car share. And moving forward, we have already changed our process internally about notification to be better about that.
Appreciate that. Mana, you have the floor. Feel free to go ahead. But one more thing, I think we might need to cut it here with regards to new questions, because it's been a pretty active day. People have appreciated Commissioner Bray coming in for sure, but we can't keep until 10. Then we have another part of the agenda to move to.
Okay, I'll be quick. My question is about the city bikes. I understand that they're here to stay. They're in the locations that they're going to be. But how about just cutting down the number of city bikes that are there? Instead of having 15, maybe have 10, so that we can address the parking issues. Because we have city bikes in front of my building. I'm at Nostrand, at the corner of Sterling Street and Nostrand. The bikes are right in front of our building. So if you go and get your groceries, you have to park either on Nostrand, which there's no parking, or go down the block because there's no way for you to walk your groceries into your building because the rack is right there. Is it possible to just move it back like maybe 5 spots so that we have take out 5 bikes so that we have access to our building without going to the corner where the cars are turning from Nostrand onto Sterling Street, and sometimes it's fast, sometimes, there's a lot of traffic at that corner. So there's no way for the residents in my building to comfortably get into the building when you get your groceries or you're trying to get your child into your car or anything. There's a point, now what they do on the bike on the block is that instead of parking right next to where the city bikes cut off, they'll leave a half a car with half a car length so that people can walk through behind that first car that's parked right by the city bikes, so that people can walk through and get their groceries in, which now makes it less parking because we're just trying to help each other out. Is it possible? So the question is it possible just to take out a few city bikes, not move the whole thing, even though there is a park right there that they could put them in front of? Is it possible to take out a few of the bikes?
Is it possible? Maybe I would just say again, I would bring it up to the board office to bring it to our attention, and we will get back to you and we'll examine it.
Thank you.
All right. You have a couple minutes, so Oscar, you can have the floor.
Thank you. Commissioner, is anything being done to address like the high density of free parking all around the community board? I'm very concerned about all the free parking that is just sort of taking up the streets and blocking access to my building. Whereas just a couple of city bikes seem to be making people apoplectic. Is there a push to move towards parking permits so that at least people feel that they have skin in the game when it comes to, having, even though the car owners are a minority in every single neighborhood, I got to get my groceries by going to the supermarket and walking back. What is being done to address the entitlement that has grown around being able to park on every street, on every block, and create, destroying sight lines And, you know, people complain even about daylighting, which is probably one of the nicest things that we could do for the disabled and for people that, you know, and just for people in general, and children trying to cross the street.
I would just say, again, you know, we, our treatment leads what we're, the problem leads to the treatment we may have for a certain situation and what our future actions may be. I think, again, with community conversation, we could come to consensus, not 100% agreement, some consensus about actions. And as far as the, I guess, to neighborhood parking permits or something like that, I have not, they are in New York City, and there are a lot of other places. I mean, New York State, excuse me, and not a lot of other places. They're not New York City. And I don't know that it's been supported at any level. If people want to support that, I think that's something that you could talk to elected reps about and see what they think about it. But I haven't heard anything that's credible about it coming to New York City anytime soon.
All right, almost 8:30. We have our last hand raised. We can take this one. Valerie, you have the floor. Please keep it to a moderate level, probably about 2 minutes.
Thank you. I'm sorry that I had to jump on late, but I was just concerned about some of the maintenance of the different infrastructure that's being placed in our communities, the city bikes, the zip cars, and things like that. When we have the leaves during the fall time, we had the snow here recently. Who is actually maintaining these spots, and who's responsibility? Because some of these things are in front of people's homes. So are the homeowner now responsible, because we're supposed to maintain into, I think, was it 12 inches or something like that into the street? So if they're putting in these for-profit entities, who is really responsible for maintaining the integrity of the community when the for-profit entities are not doing that?
They are
Commissioner Bray.
responsible for it. So according to their agreements with the city of New York, City Bike's supposed to clean their stations, keep them clean. They're supposed to sweep the leaves, and they're definitely supposed to help with snow removal to the extent they can. And same thing with car share with, you know, with mostly, like I said, it's Zipcar, there's Get Around as well. I don't know if Get Around's a CB9 or not, but that's who's
They are.
responsible for it. They are, yeah. So that's who's responsible for it. That's part of the agreement with the city. We're giving them something that's very valuable. It's like the last 30 minutes of this conversation has been about the public curb space. It's a very valuable thing that a lot of people have a lot of interest in for good reason. And so if we're going to give that to, as you said, for-profit entity, we're going to give that to Lyft, we're going to give that to, you know, Zipcar, Get Around, then they have to maintain that space, that valuable public space that we're giving them. And that's part of their agreement with us. If they're not doing that, or if you see them not doing that, again, bring that to
They're
the
not doing
board
it.
office and let us know about it, and we'll get to the companies, say to go do it. So that's that. We're happy to hear that, and we're happy to tell the companies to do that.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's not going to be as simple as just seeing some leaves or some dirt and then you yank away their spots. It's not as easy as just taking away the program from the company to use it. And I'm sure it wouldn't be based on if you
No,
complain.
that's not what my question is. Question is that if we're going to have these things, how are they going to maintain them? And how do we have a timely response? Because there were several photographs that were sent to, I guess, the community and floating where the leaves were, you know, piled up for a while. So for the integrity of both the program and the company, you know, how do we do it? How do we get a timely response? It was breaking up, so I couldn't really hear, because there were some photographs of a lot of trash and debris in these spots. Thank you.
Bring it to our attention.
I think Tara has pictures.
Yeah, Dante, Tara, whoever should bring it to our attention, and then through the board office, they'll do that, and then we'll get the companies to respond.
They never clean them, by the way. They never have cleaned them. My neighbors have had to clean them. And it's a conflict because of that rule where you have to clean in front of your house. They're putting these in residential neighborhoods, and it's inconveniencing my neighbors to a huge degree because they're not cleaning the leaves, they're not cleaning the dirt, and people in those cars throw trash into the street, into the tree pits. When they leave, they clean out the car and throw it. And then they don't clean the leaves at all, and they don't move for alternate sides. So it's very problematic. they're not cleaning them at all. Not once have I ever seen anybody clean them but my neighbors.
All right, so again, bring it to the attention of the board office, let us know the locations, we will look into it, what's going on there. I will say, again, car share like bike share is a very contested program in various neighborhoods in New York City and in several in Brooklyn. The get around and zip cars have been vandalized. There's a couple neighborhoods where their tires are slashed pretty much weekly. I'm not saying for sympathizing with the company, I'm just telling you that it's contested. So what you're saying is not a surprise. We hear this from other places. And so we actually have to call the cops to see what they can do to these cars because people are constantly going by slashing them because they're upset that these are in their neighborhood. So we do know this is something contested. If they're not being good neighbors, we'll try to see if we can make them better neighbors. So just bring it to the board office attention and we'll see what we can do about it.
Please, last comment.
One last thing, I swear, real quickly. So, you know, the zip cars that are placed out there without us knowing, I had made a suggestion. Why can't we put the zip cars where the community schools, because it's city, I already see it over there by the museum or Botanical Gardens parking lot, you know, in these various areas where it's really needed, because see, now you've just opened up Pandora's box. And I would like to answer someone that stated about the cars. We are now sharing the road space. Yes, we are. So we have to be considerate and work cohesively with everyone. In doing so, I have a car that I pay insurance, registration. I have to make sure it's checked. Okay. So indeed, I pay also my taxes for the road. Okay. And I have to say that would be applicable to my bike. Okay. I just wanted to say this. Okay. So the thing here is that if you're going to have zip cars, please consider these other entities so that we can share the road. And I mean the cars. Thank you. And the bikes, don't let me, you know, we got to think of that strategically. Thank you.
All good. And again, if there's locations you suggest that car share stations be moved or relocated or go to, just bring it to our attention and we'll look at it and see. So thank you for that suggestion.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. It is 8:34. It's time for us to move on to the next part of our agenda. And big thanks to you, Commissioner Bray, for attending. We hope to see a lot more of this. And as you saw, a lot of the concerns and just feedback here ranges from things like speed to just more involvement in the process. And I hope that you'll see that we are willing and able, and to an extent, eager to be involved in that because we have a lot to offer in that area.
Perfect. I really appreciate the conversation tonight and look forward to continuing. And whether it's the bike plan or other things that CB9 has in mind, please share it with us and we can continue this conversation.
We have quite a few. We didn't just have thoughts and feedback today. We actually have completed guidelines along car share, along we have one bike share coming up later, but we have car
Hey
share
Val,
guidelines. We have
don't forget to call back Dwayne before.
we have car share, we have bike lane suggestions, and these are all made in terms of like a complete plan, guidelines that work and we're compatible with DOT. So it's not like remove this spot on the street corner. It's all kind of comprehensive plans that we're building here so that there's a bit of an understanding throughout the district how people would like these things to be placed and rolled out. Hopefully that's more
Perfect, and thank you.
compatible, more helpful going forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, looking forward to continuing the conversation.
All right. Once again, thank you for coming. Fred, any remaining thoughts on your part?
No, I think you covered it all. Thank you so much for coming, Commissioner Bray. Thank you so much for coming, Deputy Commissioner Workman. And Diana, I apologize. I didn't give you the shout out earlier. Thank you. You always pick up the phone and you answer the emails. I appreciate you. And we're just looking forward to continuing these conversations. So invites will be coming and flying out very soon.
Thank you, Chair Baptiste. Great seeing you.
Yeah,
And thank you so much. Have a good evening, y'all.
Yeah, 1 second now. Thank you, Ms. Workman and Soraya, for coming through. All right. Okay. So we're not done yet for the meeting. Still have our co-naming to get through. I believe we have a representative for the co-naming here.
Yes, but we have several. Do you want the family to speak first?
Yes, please feel free to speak first.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Vassal.
Hi, good evening, everyone. My name is Eric Vassal. I'm the father of Saeed Vassal, who was killed by the NYPD officer on April 4, 2018. Saeed's death has caused a lot of pain and sorrows to our family and also hundreds of people in the Crown Heights community. Saeed was a kind and loving person to his family, also a great father and also a great help to his community. Naming the street would give the family, his community, a great happiness. It would take away a lot of anger, that we can see something to smile about in his remembrance. So I ask all board members to vote on this petition for the street to be named after my son. I thank you so much for listening to me and hope you all vote to pass this petition. Thank you so much.
Thank you for presenting it. I want to ask, do we?
Hi.
Can
Oh,
you? No.
hello.
Yeah.
Good night. My name is Kimon Vassal. I'm the niece of Saeed Vassal. I just wanted to ask you guys to consider, due to just the anxiety, the trauma, and just the PTSD that comes along with the tragedy. I noticed, like, I walk my daughter to school every day, and I have to pass Montgomery and Utica. And every time we pass Montgomery and Utica, you could feel like the aura, the halo, the anxiety. And my daughter always asks, like, "Mommy, why do you get so sad when you pass right here?" And I explained to her, and it's like, "Oh, it's so sad." But then if the street is actually named after Uncle Saeed, we'll actually look up and we'll say, "Hey, it's something to smile about. It'll give us like a little more comfort. It'll brighten our day." So I just ask that you guys do consider it and just consider us in your thoughts as well. Thank you.
Anyone else from the family like to speak or add to that?
Can you hear me? Good evening, everyone. My name is Yvonne. I'm the neighbor of the Vassals. We like relatives. And Saeed was loved by everyone in the neighborhood. He would willing to take your bag, elderly person, he would take their bags and he would take it for them. And he was loving. I knew him from he was going to school. And he was such a loving person. And till he was taken away, he got sick and was taken away from by the cops. And it would be a pleasure to have his name and Crown Street, because his mom, she cried every single day. And I think that would be good for her to look up and still remember Saeed when she see Crown Street. Instead of Crown Street, you see Saeed Streets. So I'm begging you guys to think about it, naming Crown Street Saeed Street. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good evening. One last call. Is anyone else who wants to present on behalf of the co-naming?
Hi, how are you? This is Antonine Pierre. I'm the executive director of the Brooklyn Movement Center, and we have worked with Mr. Vassal's family since really just even the day after that Saeed was killed. We helped to organize the first rally after Saeed was killed, and actually Kirby, who's also on the call with the Audre Lorde Project, was also organizing from that time. And we're different than a lot of folks here because we never met Saeed. We don't know Saeed, right? Like, we came after the fact. But what is so beautiful, what I love so much about the Vassal family is just how much of a family it is. And it really is just like neighbors and blood family. And, I think what Mr. Vassal has built and Saeed's character that we heard so much about really is a testament to just community here. And it just feels really beautiful to hear folks talking about just mental health and what something like this can do for community. So just appreciate the time in the meeting, and really happy to be here.
Hey everyone, my name is Kirby Joseph. As Anthony mentioned, I am a coordinator with the Audre Lorde Project, a long time, lifelong neighborhood member, New York Avenue between Carroll and Crown, and also a longtime community organizer with the Answer Coalition. I met members of Saeed Vassal's family the day that Saeed was killed, and that's where I met folks from the Brooklyn Movement Center, Antonine, and later on Michael, in 2018, and we've been working with the family ever since. The family for a long time, because they were navigating justice for Saeed, did not think about getting a street named after him. Not until recently. This campaign was a campaign that took a lot of thought from the family and from close contacts with the family, because it was raising up, talking about the trauma of Saeed being killed to community members for as long as it took to get the amount of petitions that were needed. And I want to uplift that that's not the easiest thing to do. And Mr. Vassal, Eon, Kimon, Mrs. Vassal have been talking about Saeed since 2018. So imagine advocating and now switching gears to now communicating with your community and bringing that trauma up in community again. I want to uplift that this campaign took about 3 sessions of petitioning, where Answer Coalition members, Brooklyn Movement Center members, Saeed Vassal family members spoke to hundreds of people within the community that were around Crown Street and Utica Avenue. That was part of the process. We weren't talking to people who did not live in the community. We weren't talking to people who didn't know Saeed. Everyone who was spoken to about this case not only remembered the case, down to literal day, to a literal hour where Saeed was stolen from the community, but remember how much of a community member he was, a collective community member. And everyone stood in unity and stands behind the family and uplifting that there should be a street named after a young man who's severely and deeply missed by not only his family, by not only organizers like myself and other folks on this call who only know him through the community, through his family, but because of the deeds that he did for the community. In spite of what has been reported, the community knows his character and who he was. And so we come here as allies to the family and neighborhood organizers, to folks on this call and to the community of people who live within Community Board 9, to ask that the Transportation Committee votes yes for Saeed Vassal Way.
Okay, thank you. Shariki, you have the floor.
Yeah, I just, really want to echo some of the sentiment that has been discussed. I didn't have the pleasure of knowing Saeed in life, but over the past few months, talking to not only his family, but particularly the members of the community, it's quite striking the impact that this person left on every person that he interacted with. You'll see that, I was there for all of the signature collection campaigns. And, like Herbie mentioned, we really were in a very tight radius of just the block right around where Saeed lived and was killed. And there's hundreds of signatures that we got from there. And these are not signatures that people gave in passing. Every single one of those signatures, the person that signed it would tell us a story about Saeed, and not generalities. They would give very specific examples of them remembering Saeed. And it's been over 5 years now. So it's not like this just happened, and it wasn't even like all of these people that signed, there were people that would tell us stories from the day that he died, that he helped me close my shop that day. There were people that would talk about their own personal life circumstance and the difficulties they went through in life and how Saeed helped them through all of those things. So I really want to emphasize the fact that these signatures are really representative of what the people in the community genuinely want. This is not, we didn't just kind of ask people to just sign for the sake of it. This was really, people would take the opportunity to stop, and each of those signatures represents a 10 to 30-minute conversation that people of their own volition wanted to talk about. And really the amount of excitement that the community showed for having this street renaming, that would make them feel as though they were safe on this block, that this block remembered one of its sons, was extraordinarily heartwarming. And, I really hope that a lot of that sentiment from the members of the community is really carried into this discussion here. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thanks for saying that, for offering that. So I want to ask really quickly, have you guys gotten a letter of endorsement, or have you checked with Councilperson Hudson's office at all?
You froze a little bit, so we lost.
Oh, okay.
Lost you.
Sorry about that. I was going to ask if you guys have checked with Councilperson Hudson's office at all, and then talk to her on this and see if we have an endorsement from an official who represents a part of this district.
We haven't had the conversation with Crystal's office yet. It felt really important actually to be in the process and talk to the community board, but it feels like if that is something that the community board would want, is a conversation to be had. Kirby?
Yeah, we actually spoke to the chief of staff who actually reached out to me today from Assemblywoman Waterman's office, as well as Higgins' office, who both have expressed solidarity and greenlit the street naming. Mr. Vassal has had conversations with Ms. Monique, who came to visit him recently and also gave an affirmative solidarity. And there are letters that are being written by Chief of Staff Assemblywoman Waterman's office that are going to be sent to the community board, as well as past letters by Yvette Clark, which was sent in with the application in solidarity to the Vassal family and to the loss of Saeed to the community. So this
Okay.
struggle since 2018 has been supported by electeds within Community Board 9 and also outside of Community Board 9.
Okay, because we do want to make sure that, or if possible, officials um, whose districts, cover our area are in favor of this, mostly because, we do want to make sure that, across all levels, there's some support. So I think it might be worth moving this to next month so we can, have a discussion, this month as well as next month. Dante, feel free to go ahead.
Good evening. This is Dante Aaron, I'm the district manager at CB9. Good evening. I just have a quick question. So for the street co-naming, just for clarity for everyone, could you tell us the exact street that you're looking to have co-named? I believe in the information that was sent, it said intersection, which typically, at least in my experience, doesn't happen. They typically look for a northwest, southwest corner of the intersection to put signage on. So I'm just curious, have you all decided if you would like the signage on the western side or the eastern side of Utica Avenue? Because that would make a difference to which community board you would need support from.
So the intersection that is being uplifted is Crown and Utica Avenue, because Saeed grew up and lives in 826 Crown Street, which is where he lived up until he was killed and where the Vassal family still lives today. Now, I don't know if that's east or
on the
west.
corner of that intersection. Trying to figure out which corner you would like to get.
On the corner where Ebenezer Church is.
Thank you.
Nicola, your hand's raised. You have the floor.
Hi, good evening. I was wondering, have any other avenues for honoring Saeed been considered, such as a tree planting, plaques, benches? Because it's such a personal experience that I would want something that the family could really sit and look at and watch it grow. Those in my community, that's what we've done to honor some of the people that have passed away. Those are some of the ideas that we've had. So I've just wondered, how did you land on a street co-naming versus some of the other avenues that might make it a little more personal?
This is a question, I think, for the families or not.
Okay, I'm the dad of Saeed Vassal. I never know that, we as the family could ask for that. We talk about naming the park after him, but, we will just say naming the street and we will be satisfied. We never even thought of what the lady was saying. So if that could put in place, it will bring more joy, it will bring more happiness to the family and also to the community. I do hope that even that can be placed in his memory.
And I just want to disregard the statement I mentioned earlier. They're completely in our district. We just have to kind of figure out which street pole that we're looking at.
All good. Seeing a hand raised from the Evansfield.
What? I think one thing I would be apprehensive about. Good evening, everyone. In making it
It's
a
a little hard to
trend.
hear you.
Oh, I'm sorry.
It's a little distorted.
Can you hear me better now?
A little worse, actually.
Well, I don't know how to make it better. You can hear me, Philadelphia. You say that is. The
Maybe I
downside
might still a bit close to
is that now there, as time goes by, it's possible that
getting a
trees
little
will be
better.
removed as opposed to a street code naming. That seems to be something that people don't change. But trees, we don't, even though the family can see them as something and look back on, it's not permanent, not in New York. I just want to say that.
I mean, how long have the World War veterans trees have been on Eastern Parkway? I'm sure they've been there for quite a while.
I'm sorry, ask the question again.
I was just wondering how long the World War veterans trees memorials on Eastern Parkway. There are a series of plaques along those trees that pay homage to the some veterans. I'm sure they've been
Are
there.
they plaques or trees? Are they plaques or trees?
Yeah,
And those are veterans, not regular people. Those are
Right.
veterans.
Yeah.
They're a little apprehensive about doing things that memorialize those individuals or that group, or a particular group like that.
I'm addressing the permanence of those plaques. I mean, sure, trees may not be permanent, but
I
a
don't know.
street
I
code
can't
name.
answer that question. I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. How long
Oh,
the
yeah.
plaques are in there?
Yeah, it's fine. But I mean, just to add to that, a street code naming provides as little context as possible about an event that may have been, tragic. And it's one of the ways that people are educated the least about what happened. Other options like plaques that go on benches or near trees are they can be quite permanent, and oftentimes they provide a lot of space for people to learn more about the story behind what happened, and can provide a lot more awareness than a street sign could, due to the lack of context that it's able to provide. We can take a few, some questions and go into more detail for a little bit. We're approaching 9 and we're trying to aim to end pretty soon. We can table a chunk of this discussion to next month. But we can have a little more before we try to end off here. Fred, Vic, have some thoughts?
Yeah, no, thank you very much. I think that may make sense, because I don't believe, because I know that there's a time frame by which the city considers those. I think we've already missed. I think there's one that's like in November, December, and I think the next one is probably coming up in 2 or 3 months. So there is a little bit of time, and especially for the family, because I just, even if it's a matter of one, making sure that we secure the support of the local electeds, gives you a little bit more time to gather that documentation to make sure that you have that full support going through the city council, as well as even discussing if that's the way you want to remember your loved one. If that's the most appropriate way to do that. So, you can discuss the options, whether it's a tree, if you think that's more comforting, if it's a plaque, if it's a bench, or if you decide to stay with this plan in terms of, no, we think that the street sign is the best way. But at least you can discuss a little bit, some of the options, and we still have enough time to do some additional engagement.
Thanks for that, Fred. Do we have any more quick comments before we try to move on here?
Just in terms of process, because I know the family wants a street on the block where Saeed was raised, where the family still is. That is the priority for them. So in terms of process, because there's still questions and thoughts that people have, there's still things that we're waiting on that we can follow up on. Would we then ask the family to come back at the next transportation committee meeting in February?
Dante?
No, go ahead. You were muted.
I can go ahead, Dante.
Yeah, so process-wise, so essentially, you'll come back in to the next transportation committee meeting in February. This will give the committee just a little bit of time of the month to inquire. Again, there was a question about the specific side of the street that you're looking to do. Again, in my experience working in the city council and working with other agencies, I haven't seen them do a full intersection, but you never know. So just some clarity on that. So to answer your question, process-wise, yes, you'll be returning back to the next Transportation Committee meeting next month.
If I could offer this,
Yeah.
I mean, I know, listen, first of all, let me just say this on behalf of the board. You know, I know, Mr. Vassal, you lost your son 4 or 5 years ago. I can't do the math right now, but you know, I know that that's a pain that you still live through, and I know for all the neighbors and he is still very much in your memory and in your thoughts. So absolutely, I thank you and want you to know that you're on our thoughts as you continue your healing journey. I would probably offer, it's not necessary for everyone to come back because you've already given your testimony in terms of this. So I don't think it's necessary for you to repeat that. But part of the conversation can probably be if you designate someone who's able to speak on behalf, and offer, you know, and basically give clarification on those points we just talked about. So if there's an update in terms of who's provided testimonials, one person can do that, or 2 people you can do that, you can designate. Same thing if there's a change in terms of the choice. I think to Dante's point, once the specific intersection is done, I mean, that's okay if just 1 or 2 representatives, they can come and do that, because I think everyone's already spoken eloquently and passionately about the feelings that the community had for Saheed.
Agreed. Sherry, you have your hand raised, you have the floor.
Thank you so much. Yeah, I just really wanted to speak on the issue of street specifically. I think folks have already done a great job of describing it, but you know, a street is a permanent thing. And it really, you know, you see a name on a street and there's just natural curiosity in people to look up more of the situation and get to know what things were. And on top of that, you know, for the community to look at that, people who already know Saeed, it's really the most permanent way. And I think Kimon really said it the very best, where she shared the very personal anecdote of, you know, what it would mean for her children to look at that street name and it meaning something completely different than what it means for them right now. So yeah, I just really want to kind of, you know, advocate for the street naming in particular, as opposed to something like a tree or even a plaque.
Yeah, and to be clear, I mean, we're not trying to talk you out of it. I mean, if that's what the family and the community wants, absolutely, you can stand by that. I think it's, you know, like I said, I think just because we have some time in the process, it's worth the discussion. And if the answer is the answer, then that's fine, and we'll just proceed with that. I think we're good with that.
Okay.
Yeah, I just wanted to say one more thing for process, because they may not know. So essentially, the way the process goes is that the committee here will make their recommendation, and then that recommendation will move to the full board. So you have some of the board members on this respective committee, but after the committee makes its respective recommendation, it will go to the full board for a vote for all the members. So I just wanted to make clarity regarding that.
Yeah. Welcome. Yeah, the floor, your hand raised.
Partly just because I'm taking minutes as well. I unless I misheard, I thought that they did already clarify, at least someone making this appeal clarified which corner they wanted. They said the one by the church, right? Like,
Yes, I did.
Oh, right. You said Ebenezer, right?
yeah. So if that's the case,
yeah, then we're good.
Again, I want the family to take as much time as they want. I mean, I know the story. I really appreciated hearing all the detail now, but Fred, I think you said it really well. We don't want to make people come back again if it is certain that that's the corner that they want and it's closest to the house. Yeah, so if the location's already known, then I mean, I would fully support it, but you know, I leave it to you as the next part of the process. But I just wanted to clarify. I think the location was already said.
All right, well, good here. So this will continue into next month. We're gonna have another discussion on February. It'll likely be on February 14th. Our next meeting is pretty much already for the most part set for that date. So So moving forward, we'll continue this here. You can have a representative come to that meeting as well, and we can continue this talk. But for now, we are going to be looking to adjourn this meeting. And I want to thank the family for coming and presenting, your ask for this to the committee. And we're going to continue the detailed discussion about this in February, and we are going to give this our full attention and our full consideration as usual. And I just want to make sure that, everything is taken care of and that we all get to have our voices heard and we hear, all sides of this street co-naming going forward. So should we have a vote to adjourn? I'd move to adjourn this meeting.
I second.
I third it.
All right. Have anyone against? Any votes in opposition to that? Everyone's like, we don't have any. Great. All right. Thank you guys for attending. This is our January meeting, and I will see you all again in February.
And to the family, if you need any assistance with contact, I think one of the good next steps would be to contact Councilmember Hudson's office. If you need assistance with that, Dante can definitely make sure we make that connection for you as well. I think that strengthens the application if we can get that support up early and up front. But absolutely, and again, our condolences, and you stay in the thoughts and prayers.
Thank you so much.
Starling Beasley's office.
All right, you're welcome. You're welcome, guys.
All right. Thank you. Have a good night, everyone. Be well, be safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.